まで出ています。はい、今回の動画はネーム雑談という感じの動画だったんですが、いかがでしたでしょうか。ちょっとマニアックな話になってしまったかなと思うんですが、最後まで興味を持って見ていただいた方、本当にありがとうございました。漫画創作大変なこともありますが、頑張っていきましょうという動画でした。それではまた。
Coke time ka muna!
스크롤만 내려봤자 기분만 다운.
おはようございます。千葉ごぜです。今日は漫画家の一日というテーマで、私の一日の仕事の様子を撮影してみました。どなたかの参考になれば幸いです。私は今、月刊の少女漫画雑誌で連載をさせていただいていて、1ヶ月に書く枚数は26枚ぐらいです。朝ごはんと散歩が終わったらもう仕事を始めていきます。だいたい毎日朝始めて夕方には終わるようにしています。もともと朝型の体質なので、午前中が一番頭が働いているんですよね。なのでここから数時間が勝負です。さあ、お仕事を始めていきます。作画に使っているデバイスは iPad Pro 11インチ第2世代です。ペイントソフトはクリップスタジオペイントを使っています。この左側に片手デバイスを置いているんですが、なかなか使いこなせなくて飾りになってしまっていますね。今日のタイムスケジュールを左側に表示しておきます。だいたいいつもこんな感じの時間に漫画を描いたり休んだりしているんですが、締め切り前になるとどうしても夜までダラダラ仕事をしていたりっていうこともあります。ただ朝型人間で夜に弱いので、活用するっていうことはまずありません。お休みの日というのは特に決めていなくて、元気があって描けそうな日は毎日でも描いて、目標は細く長く漫画家を続けていくことです。午前10時です。スクリーントーン貼る作業に移りました。私の漫画制作の時間配分を左側に表示しておきます。1ヶ月をだいたいこんな感じで使っています。ネームという漫画の土台、絵コンテのようなものに2日から4日で、その後の時間を作画に使っているという感じです。後の時間を作画に使っているという感じです。時間配分は本当に人それぞれなんじゃないかなと思います。私の場合は作画が遅くて、特にペン入れが遅いので、ネームを早く切り上げなくてはいけなくて、それがちょっと残念なところです。うちは家族の一人がアシスタントをしてくれているので、こうやってペンが入っていればどんどん アシスタントさんに仕事を渡していってもいいんですが、今日はせっかく動画にするので皆さんに漫画を描くいろんな工程を見ていただきたくて自分でやってみることにしました。普段からこだわりがあるところは自分でやっています。このネームという作業の前にプロットっていうセリフやストーリーを文字で書き起こしたものを作ることもあるんですが、作らないことも割とあります。担当編集者さんとお電話で打ち合わせしてもう大丈夫かなと思ったらそのままネームに入ることもあります。時にはネームがなかなかうまく進まなくてネームが途中までしか完成していないのに下絵とペン入れに入るっていうこともあります。編集者さんと相談した上で時間との兼ね合いでもう間に合わないかなと思ったら下絵に入ってしまうという感じですね。でも不思議と前半にしっかり絵が入ってくると後半のイメージも湧いてきてスムーズにネームが進むこともあるので、こうやってフレキシブルに書く順番を変えさせていただいていることは本当にありがたいです。して間もない新人漫画家の頃はなかなかそういったお願いを編集さんにするのは難しく感じますよね。でも今思えばもっと何でも相談すればよかったなと思っています。さてこのページは完成です。まだお昼には早いんですがちょっと疲れてしまったのでお昼ご飯を買いに行って休憩にしたいと思います。 iPad で漫画を描いていると本当に目が疲れるんですよね。なのでしっかり目を休めて休憩したいと思います。さて午後になりました。今日はサイン本を書く仕事があるのでこれをやっていきます。サイン本を書く仕事っていうのはそんなにしょっちゅうあるわけではなくて、今私が書かせていただいている別コミっていう雑誌が55周年のイベント中なので、そのイベントで売っていただくサイン本を書いているっていう感じです。デビューしてすぐの頃に5秒ぐらいで考えたサインを一生使い続けることになってしまったので、皆さんはご自分のサインを考えるときはくれぐれもご注意ください。簡単なサインにするのがおすすめですね。漫画の背景を作る作業に移りました。背景を描くというよりはこうやってクリップスタジオの素材をダウンロードして画面に合わせて置いていくという感じです。背景を描くのは割と好きな方なので本当は自分で全て描きたいなと思うことも多いんですが、連載をしていると時間との兼ね合いでどうしても素材に頼ってしまうことが多いです。こんな感じで本当にたくさんの素材があるのでクリップスタジオ本当にありがたいですよね。素材をアップロードしてくださっている作家さんたちにも本当に感謝しています。この背景は絵を描いている男の子の部屋っていう設定なのでこんな感じでそれっぽく見えるように仕上げていきます。私は結構適当な性格なので
nag-hihok
長
lang.
方形ツールなんかでなんとなくそれっぽく見えればいいかなという感じで簡単に仕上げていってしまいます。 今日のおやつはこんな感じです。別コミ55周年のイベントで購入できたちょっと特別なマカロンでした。
Lucky Me Jumbo. Sarap anghang sarap. From Korea to your cup.
私の動画を見てくださっている方は漫画家志望の方やこれから漫画を描いてみたいなという方が多いかなと思います。漫画家になったらどんな一日が待っているんだろうとちょっとドキドキしていた方もいらっしゃるかなと思って今回こんな動画を撮ってみました。皆さんの疑問は解決されたでしょうか？漫画家といっても本当に人それ
Ang
ぞれ
ganda
だ
ng
と思い
comic,
ます。
sobra. My dream is to have a very beautiful comics. Kahit hindi na siya masyadong popular, ako na yung mag-rage. Ako na mag-rage. Para like matapos na lang yan. At least may supporta galing sa akin.
本当に人それぞれだと思います。今回お見せできたのはあくまでも私の場合という感じなのですが、どなたかの参考になれば嬉しいです。またこれから動画で見てみたいテーマや私への質問などあればお気軽にコメント欄に書き込んでみてください。いつも参考にさせていただいてます。今日のお仕事はこれでおしまいにします。これは後日撮ったものなんですが、さっきのページが雑誌に載るとこんな感じというのをお見せしています。この号はカラー扉がついていたのでこんな感じです。このイラストのメイキング動画ももう撮れているのでまた今度アップしようと思います。もし見ていただけたら嬉しいです。今回の動画から動画に音声を吹き込んでみたんですがいかがだったでしょうか？これは海外の視聴者さんからのリクエストで私の国の言葉で字幕を出せませんかというものがあって YouTube では音声さえ吹き込んでいれば多くの国の言葉に翻訳字幕を出すことができるので今回はこんな感じにしてみました。翻訳字幕ご利用いただけたでしょうか？まだまだ未熟な私のチャンネルなんですが今後も成長していけるように頑張ります。今日は動画のご視聴本当にありがとうございました。普段喋らない仕事なので喉がガラガラになってしまいました。これからもう少し喉も鍛えられるといいなぁなんて思っています。
Be one of 50 millionaires in Zamboanga City. KCC Mega Raffles.
Hello, I'm Mucha, a manga artist and doujinshi writer. This time, I filmed a vlog about a day of training, a day when I wrote manga for 11 hours a day. Let's take a look at it while explaining it. The time is 4 a.m., and I'll write about my schedule for the day for about 15 minutes after waking up. First, the current scene playing in the background is, well,
Ha?
quite a big battle scene in a store.
Da,
But it's a
ayaw
scene
na
where guns
pagpansin
are
daw
fired
ni.
and things get
It's
exciting.
either naggamit nila. Kasi hindi
Since
lang
the
kasing
pieces are
kwan.
large in scenes like this, I feel like I have to be really
Wait, ito,
particular
mga
about the
kid-kid.
sound or the screen won't hold up. And it doesn't look good on screen, so I spend a lot of time on it.
Oo.
To be honest, some artists who are good at drawing don't really care about the sound, and they just quickly draw with a brush pen, which looks pretty sloppy. It's a bit of a bad way of putting it, but even if the sound looks sloppy, some people don't really mind it because their drawing skills are really high. Well, since there's no time for regular commercial serializations, I think many people write the discussion notes without thinking of them as part of the composition of the picture they'll be drawing last. I think there are quite a few writers who want to focus on the pictures, so they give the questions a low priority and don't put much effort into them. I'm not the type of person who draws with great detail or who writes with great handwriting, so I tend to use the I pictures, or try to create the pictures with the I sound. As you can see, I've been writing this for a little over an hour, but I've only been able to write the I sound in a little less than an hour. I really don't need to be so particular about the temperature because the deadline is tight, but I guess it can't be helped. Also, I originally started out as a political cartoonist, so I haven't really written discussion notes like this before, so I'm not used to it. Of course, it's not like I'm good at drawing questions even if I spend a lot of time on them. But this picture is a scene
Yes.
where an assault rifle is fired from the back to the front, so the main character is small, right? Instead, in order to make it more impactful, I have to draw the sound realistically, even if it's not good enough. Even if I don't have time, I feel like I have to do a little bit here or it won't look good, so I've been drawing for about an hour. It's around 5:15 in the morning. I'm hungry, so I'm going to eat. I eat less than usual because I get sleepy if I eat too much. I'm done with dinner, so I'm going to resume working. I'm going to continue drawing, and once I'm mostly done, I'll start washing the picture. Washing the picture is the most enjoyable part of my current work, and maybe most artists feel the same way. After all, especially in manga, line drawing is important, so it feels good when the balance of the lines and the flat colors looks good. Rather than doing the finishing touches at the end, I do the flat colors at the same time as the line drawing. I find it much easier to achieve the overall balance by doing the line drawing while filling in the blanks, and when I finish drawing all the lines and then fill in the blanks as a finishing touch, I often end up doing it twice because I feel like I want to go a little overboard. That's why I do the line drawing and the blanks together. Also, as you can see from the screen, I don't really zoom in on the screen. The reason for this is that I want to draw while keeping an eye on the overall balance, and if I zoom in, I end up drawing in unnecessary areas, which reduces my work efficiency. Also, this is just my personal feeling, but I find it easier to make pen strokes when I draw on the screen. I think I tend to get really hung up on the lines when I draw on the screen. When I draw close up, my strokes become longer, or maybe the pressure is different. I think it probably depends on the person's preference. So if you're not happy with the pen stroke or the thickness, you might want to try changing the zoom level. I'm writing this on a pen tablet, but when I draw on a liquid tablet, I also draw from a relatively small distance and don't zoom in too much. Basically, I try not to enlarge it much more than the original size of the current paper. I'm also drawing a lot of mob characters right now, but I basically have my assistants draw the mob characters and leave the backgrounds to them. However, I draw characters that are important to the complex story of mob characters, like this one, where there's emotion in it, like this weird scene, which is a little hard to understand, but it's a scene where the mob characters are happy after being shot and their clothes are changed into bondage gear. Also, the piece above is a little hard to see, but it's like this piece where the background, effects, and mob characters are all integrated into a single screen. I draw these pieces myself. But basically, I have my assistants draw most of the other pieces. So, my workload is pretty small, so it's easy. There are quite a few other artists who upload time-lapse videos, and they all draw their own backgrounds, and they're all working on monthly magazines of the same time. I can't do that. I use my assistant pretty much all the time, and I think it's amazing how slow it is, and I want to be like that someday. Well, I guess I'm a little too focused, or maybe I'm too easy on myself. So I'm going to be a little stricter with myself from now on. The first page was relatively easy because I only had to wash the illustrations. Next, I'll start on the second draft. This light blue, random drawing will be the storyboard. I'll stick the storyboard on a piece of paper, and then I'll start drawing the rough draft. The parts written in red are basically the parts I'll have my assistant draw. I've left the tedious parts to them, so it's really easy. This is the picture that looks like a swatch on this page in the third panel. This is an illustration of a cool-looking girl, so it was fun to draw. I guess you can only write a cool ending for a regular manga. Of course, you can do that for adult manga, but the meaning changes somehow. The cool girls in adult manga are cool to show the gap, and the coolness is there to show their cuteness when they become adult-oriented. It's all connected to adult expressions like that. I tend to like characters from mainstream manga more than characters from adult manga. So cool characters from mainstream manga have been something I've admired in the past, so I'm having a lot of fun drawing them this time. Of course, cool characters from political manga have their merits too. They do, and I'd like to draw something like that too. Also, I tend to draw big at the rough draft stage. So I don't usually draw perfect pictures in one go by reducing the size and adjusting the picture. I rely heavily on the power of civilization and scaling. What is this feeling? Is it because I don't have a good sense of balance that I can't do it? Artists who mainly work with analogs are really amazing. They don't have the ability to scale. No, the balance would be all messed up.
May notipid-tip ako, don't order food or book a ride solo. Dapat, sabay na sa group order and...
If it were me, I'd finish the drawing and start inking. This time I wrote about scenes where I'm driving a car or holding a gun, but I have absolutely no knowledge of them and I'm not very good at games, so I'm sorry. Well, I don't really play intense games. Oh, but I did play Monster Hunter, so I guess that's a good thing. I don't really play games that feature guns, so I don't really know much about guns. I only know the names of handguns, machine guns, and rocket launchers. So I did a lot of research on each one this time. I thought they were machine guns because they were called rocket launchers, but machine guns are really big. When I looked them up, I found out that handheld weapons that you can fire indiscriminately are either submachine guns or assault rifles. And since I'm an amateur, I couldn't tell which was which just by looking at pictures of submachine guns and assault rifles, and I didn't understand why there was a difference. So I looked up some analysis videos on YouTube and looked at some simple differences. So, the difference is in the bullets. The bullets are bigger in assault rifles, right? That's probably right. The bullets are probably bigger in assault rifles and smaller in submachine guns. The bullets themselves are different. It seems like they're like bullets from a gun or a handgun. That's not right. Sorry. I think I'll get a lot of comments on this. From experts. That's why it's called a magazine. When you reload the bullets, you change them with a bang. The magazine attached to the front of your hand is a different size. The assault rifle is bigger. It's so big that you can tell right away if someone tells you. I think there's no mistake about the assault rifle, and even if you look at its intended use, the assault rifle can aim at farther targets. The closest thing is a submachine gun, and it says that submachine guns are lighter, so this girl named Canola is a slender girl. So I thought about giving her a submachine gun because she'd prefer a lighter gun, but the 3D model that my assistant prepared was for an assault rifle, so I made her an assault rifle. What kind of knowledge do I have about guns like this? FPS? I don't play FPS games at all. I prepare 3D models. I can't even watch game commentaries, so I really don't know anything about them. Maybe people who play FPS games or horror games like Resident Evil would understand them quite well. I think playing games is a good advantage in terms of knowledge. I looked everything up, and I also looked up all 10 different ways to hold a gun. When I looked up how to hold a gun, it basically uses BBs, or rather, what is it? Airsoft? Is it called a model gun for airsoft? Excuse me. There are guns for airsoft, and I don't know if I should use them as a reference for the movement. It looked like everyone was holding the gun differently.
Okay na. Sige, wait
So
lang.
what I saw was a video where a Japanese person who was really good at airsoft in Japan was invited to a real gun club or something overseas, and there he touched a real gun for the first time. And it was like a demonstration video of what happens when an airsoft pro uses a real gun. Even then, everyone everyone was applauding and saying, "Wow, that's amazing." It seemed like it proved that airsoft pros can use real guns as well. I used the stance in that video as a reference. I thought it was a good idea. Also, the Japanese person in question was actually quite small compared to the people overseas, so I thought, even a relatively small person can hold a gun like this. So I did that because I don't draw more than 10 times the amount of time it takes me to draw manga. I usually leave it to my assistants to do it in 3D, so it doesn't take that long, but I do spend a lot of time researching things like that. It can sometimes take more than half a day. Well, it was still interesting, and to be honest, I wasn't interested in 10 at all, but once I started researching, it was interesting, so it was quite fun. People who like to research things like this might be suited to writing manga. And yet, you know what I mean? I felt the greatness of YouTube, or rather the internet. If there was no internet, I would have had materials from various angles on YouTube, so I mostly use YouTube to gather materials. I'm grateful for that. It's 10 a.m. I'm starting the draft of the third page. This page is pretty easy, so I think I didn't want to spend too much time on it. I'm really bad at being flexible, and I can't really make the details look big enough. This is Ultra Jump. When I was featured in a magazine with other artists, I noticed that my manga didn't look good enough. I thought it didn't really catch the eye. Recently, or rather, I've been paying a lot of attention to that. Then I improved it, but I really can't make the turning radius drastically smaller. Even this page I'm writing now isn't made that drastically smaller, but if I were to do it now, I'd probably make the second one a little smaller. But the scene on the left side of the second one shows the main character's butt, so making it that small isn't good. I want to show her butt. So, I guess this is fine as it is, but the easiest way to improve the turning radius is to imitate the turning radius of manga that you like to read. People often ask me how I find references to write characters, but when it comes to characters, I look at a lot of references for turning radiuses, and I hardly ever look at characters anymore. But when it comes to turning radiuses, I usually display a manga that's good at turning radiuses next to me while I write. Well, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I think I was probably looking at them when I was writing this page. The manga that I really reference for my quick-wittedness is called Blue Lock, and it's a really popular and incredibly popular manga. I think that if you have one volume of Blue Lock, you can read all manga quickly. I really like the quick-wittedness of the first volume of Blue Lock. How should I put it? The first volume of Blue Lock has everyday scenes, and instead of battle scenes, there are soccer scenes, scenes with a large number of people, and speech scenes with no action at all. There are also scenes where the characters don't move, but you have to move their hearts. It feels like every scene that a manga needs is packed into one volume, and yet it's so crazy. I personally think that it's amazing how the author can move emotions with these static scenes, and how he can draw pictures and be quick-witted, so I watch Blue Lock a lot. I think the reason why I get bored when I read manga is because it's quick-witted. Other authors are good at it too, but for me, the quick-wittedness of the first volume of Blue Lock is what impressed me the most. Also, especially since he's a recently popular author, I find him really easy to refer to, so I've been using him as a reference. This one in particular might be hard to see, but the long horizontal thing at the top, I guess. Well, if it were Blue Lock, it would be a bit more long and thin, but I've never done that before, but I learned from Blue Lock. I've been talking about Blue Lock this much, but I've only read up to volume 2 of the manga, so I don't have much time, and the content is really interesting, so I'm looking forward to reading it from now on. The cost of drawing this page is pretty low, so I think I'll be able to finish inking it quickly. I've finally been able to set up my preferred pen settings recently. It's been 2 years since the series started. Has it really been 2 years? I finally figured out my ideal pen settings. I feel like I figured it out today. I suddenly had a really strong feeling, and the pen settings felt so good that I've progressed the most pages in my life on that day. As a result, I don't really know why I decided on the pen settings, but I guess it was decided over time. I received a question about pen settings in the comments, so I'll make make a video about that and answer it later. I really like the expression in the middle of this shop. The manga I'm writing is a girls' comedy. Since it's a gag manga for girls, I don't often draw cute blushing scenes like this. So characters like this one, who are kind of tsundere, are often included in girls' comedies, so I'm grateful for that. The main characters don't often have expressions like this. In that sense, I think it's pretty fun to draw cute expressions in romance stories between men and women, or between girls and boys. But I can't write romantic comedies. No, I don't know. This manga isn't finished yet, but I've been thinking about ideas for my next manga, and my editor and I have been saying that a romantic comedy would be great. But as anyone who's read my doujinshi, especially adult doujinshi, will know, I don't really understand romance. It's not really romance, it's more like violence. So I'm not sure if I can do a romantic comedy. Please look forward to that. If I can do a romantic comedy. Please look forward to that. Oh, it's already past noon. So far, I've been able to work at a good pace. I've taken 15-minute breaks in the middle, but when those 15-minute breaks add up, it's scary because it's over an hour. But I've been able to work for more than 6 hours out of 8 in the morning, so I've already finished 2.6 pages, which means I'm doing pretty well. As it says in the upper right corner, I'm aiming for 4 pages this time, so I'll keep working hard. Oh, next, I'll start the current draft of the 4th page. There are a lot of small mini characters displayed on the screen right now. These are the mini characters that I use next to the speech bubbles when characters on screen speak, and I've saved them and pasted them on paper. That makes things easier later. I'm planning to make a video summarizing my current time-saving methods later, so I'll talk about them in detail then. I have so many videos I want to make later that I don't know when I'll be able to do them, but please wait patiently. The first one is a simple drawing where I'm holding my smartphone and showing it to you, so I just wrote it down without any drafts.
Nagbubuan pa sila.
Some people might think it's really hard to write without any drafts, but with digital technology, you can
Yan
zoom
na.
in, zoom out, move, and do whatever you want.
Ang
If you copy and paste all the dialogue you've typed now and paste it directly into the story editor, each box will be an independent line of dialogue. I'm also explaining that you can move and move pages like this, but I don't usually use this function, so I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but it's all displayed together in the upper right corner, and the text is on one layer. When you want to move it, you can move it freely like this with the object tool. This is also convenient, so I think people who use it should try it. Well, there are convenient functions like that, but I don't really use them. I usually write the storyboard like this, with the text and small frames typed on top of the current. Frame. I think I had some notes taken during the meeting earlier, so I use those as a basis to imagine various things in my head, like what the characters will probably say. I usually make a big frame because they're saying something important. It's all just a matter of personal preference, but at this stage I'm just working on the dialogue in small frames. I've created about 34 pages, so I'm going to go home.
Ba't ka nag-loading? Wala kang karapatan para... Shit. Bye-bye, bitch. Sorry.
by Olivia Rodrigo.
Oh wow, this is taking me right back.
Wala si Payaw. Oh my God.
Marilah kita goyang bersama, goyang kemana-mana.
Hello, it's Matsuda. 11:30. Today, during my drawing period, I usually spend about 4 hours working on 3 pages from draft to finish, so I've made a video explaining how to do it, or rather, showing the actual process, so please watch it for reference.
Yeah.
These are the 3 pages I plan to work on today. I'll be working on the left side of this spread and the next 2 pages. What I'm writing now is the storyboard. At the storyboard stage, I write to the point where I can understand the expression and composition to some extent. So, first, I'm going to set up various settings on this page, but first, I'll set this storyboard layer to the draft layer. This button, draft layer, yes. Once you've set it up, change the layer color. The storyboard has turned light blue. Next, I'll divide the pieces.
Hindi!
There are
Hindi
various
ko
ways to
gagawin
do
eh.
this.
Makainis, ang dami kong plano sa utak, tapos
I
hindi ko yung
usually take a
nangyayari
large piece of
eh.
the basic
Hindi ko
frame,
yung gagawin.
bring it in like this, and use the stylus tool to divide it into smaller pieces. Now that I've set up the basic frame, I'll actually divide the frames. I don't want to separate folders for each frame, so instead of dividing the frames into folders, I use the dividing lines tool called dividing the frames. Once I've roughly divided the frames like this, I use the object tool to adjust the pieces. Some pieces may not need the black dividing lines, so in those cases, I just erase the dividing lines for those pieces. Select the frame with the object tool, the piece on the bottom left, open the object tool properties, and uncheck Draw Dividing Lines. This will remove the thin border lines. Next, I'll draw the speech bubbles. I prefer to draw speech bubbles by hand. Sometimes it's faster to use materials because I often have to redraw them several times until I get the speech bubbles just right. Yes, I've drawn all the speech bubbles. I've moved the speech bubble layer above the frame layer. The first frame on this page is a cutout frame, so I'll erase some of the dividing lines. I'm using a tool called the Cut Frame Eraser Pen that I downloaded. I want to cut this out, so I'll cut it out like this with the Cut Frame Eraser Pen. This will partially erase the fine lines. Sorry, it's a little out of focus, but I'm lowering the transparency of the layer I first used as the draft layer. Once I set the draft to a light level that makes it easy to draw, the preliminary preparations are complete. I'll create a new layer on top of this and draw the draft. The initial settings are monochrome, but I'll change the draft layer to gray so that it's easy to draw soft lines for the draft. I'm using this dark pencil pen to draw the draft. This is how it feels when I write. Okay, so I'm getting serious about the draft. I've done the same preliminary preparations I did earlier for the remaining 2 pages. I'll be dividing it into small sections and drawing speech bubbles in the same way. I want to be able to trace it later when I ink it, so I'm drawing the draft quite carefully. That said, I don't want to draw too carefully and make the drawing stiff, so I'll draw relaxed lines, using the relaxed drawing in the storyboard as a reference. Well, as you can see from this, I basically don't use the back button. That's partly because I used to draw analog, but with digital, you can redraw lines as many times as you want by pressing the back button, and I think that's a good thing about it, but in the end, I always end up wondering which line was the best, so I just draw in one go, trusting the line I draw at that moment and trying not to use mosaics as much as possible. Oh, and as you can see, another trick to saving time is not to zoom in too much. With digital, you can zoom in infinitely, but in reality, manga is often read in a fairly small size, so I think most people don't really care about the details as long as the overall balance is right. Yes. So, it's been an hour since I started. I've finished the 3rd draft page. I have my assistant draw the background, so the background
Huwag
frames are
kayong
open.
mag-proud dyan. Walang nakaka-proud
So even
dyan.
though I drew it for an hour, it's only 3 pages of characters, so I don't think it's particularly fast. Now, I'm going to move on to inking. Now, just like before, change the settings of the draft layer to the draft layer and change the layer color. I've also lowered the brightness to make it easier to ink. Since I want to draw without going outside the fine lines, I'll select the frame layer and create a new layer. This will make it possible to only show the inside of the fine lines. As for the pen I'm using for inking, I'm using a pen called the Gasa Gasa Ga pen. You can download it for free. As the name suggests, it's a rough pen. Now, let's do some inking. As I mentioned when I was making the draft, I want to just trace the lines, so I'll just trace the picture without any scribbles, aiming for clean lines and a smooth pen stroke. Here too, you basically can't use the back button. I know it's hard to make long strokes for the head and hair, but I draw strokes from the perspective of the elbow or wrist. I think there are various ways to draw strokes from the perspective of the fingertips, wrists, and arms, so you might want to find a method that suits you. 1:30 p.m. Another hour has passed. I'm currently working on the line drawing for page 2. I recorded the video without fast forwarding so you can see my actual drawing speed. I think I move the screen occasionally, but this pen has a button, and I have it set up so that you can move it by pressing the button and tracing the canvas.
Gusto ko yung ganito kaysa mag-bisyo. Wala akong gustong i-bisyo. Kasi parang parang it just makes the time slower. Tapos I realized, oh my god, I actually used to do those projects. Ang
When I was drawing
galing.
the previous piece, I measured the time, and it seems that I finished drawing one frame, which is mostly just a person, in about 7 minutes and 30 seconds. You can see here that I use my wrist to draw the strokes. The thickness of the handwriting is different from what I expected, so I used the back button here, which is unusual. Page 3. I set this layer to draft mode and continue adding. I think this is a problem with my pressure, but I'm drawing this rough line with a pen thickness of 170 points.
You know, science says skin concerns could be caused by germs. Here's new Safeguard Germ Protect.
So yan, nila.
Got it.
But it doesn't get thick as expected. If I apply too much pressure, it becomes quite thick, so I think you can adjust it depending on your pressure, but I might be drawing with a feather touch. Yes. So even with this number of points, the lines are very thin. What I'm drawing now is a complete mob character, but since there's a piece that somehow seems strong, I'm drawing the strongest person I can. I think I'm drawing in a strange stroke order, but I'm just tracing a corpse, so at this point I'm not really thinking about the structure or balance of the human body.
Kadiri yung FX, putang ina. Sana I could have done
I'm
so
just
much.
absent-minded.
May music video ba tayong gusto nating gawin? Animation meme lang, no? Kasi wala akong gana eh. Kung animatic, baka pwede. I'd love to use Olivia Rodrigo. Gagawa tayo ng music video eh. Kasi Olivia Rodrigo fan ako eh. I feel like there's a possibility na yung ipopromote yung Olivia Rodrigo type. Kasi I just love her song. Let's sucker, dream me good like a goddamn vampire. O, di ba ang ganda? You know that I can. I never understand. Ooh, I've made some real big mistake. Pero wala akong natitink na ganun eh. Wala, hindi, yung mga tinitink ko, hindi yan mangyayari. Trust me, hindi talaga yan nangyayari. Charles. Sana all na lang kung mangyari. Pero besides that, hindi talaga yan nangyayari. So, we're here.
I noticed while watching the video that when I draw hair, I draw it like I'm playing a guitar.
Hala. Kayong
From
ganun
top to
yun.
bottom, bottom to top. Is this a strange way of drawing? I don't know if it's normal or not. It seems like I just draw it this way out of habit. So, I've finished inking the third page, but this one panel on the third page has a simple background, so I'm going to draw it myself. Yeah, sorry about the out of focus image again. Select Create Perspective Ruler from the Ruler Thin Frame in the Layer tool. I just want to draw vertical and horizontal lines, so I'll select the easiest single point investment type and press. Then, this upper part of the figure appears, but I don't need diagonal lines this time, so I'll disable them. Okay. Now I can draw vertical and horizontal lines along the ruler. Now I'm going to change the pen and actually draw them. Vertical lines.
Napaka-old na
and
yung
then
I must
horizontal and vertical
confess
lines. Yes, I
that
was able
my
to draw them
lonely...
neatly.
So what if gagawin natin yung dream natin? Kasi
I
I
used this
know
ruler to
one,
draw a
I never
background
wanted
like
to
this.
dream na ganun-ganun. Yung dream ko yung mas better na yung dream ko. Kahit ganyan.
If it was a simple background like that, I might draw it myself. Now, I've finished inking all 3 pages. Just the characters and a simple background. And since it was a no-judgment task where I just traced the rough sketch, it was done in no time.
Whatever life brings, kakayanin yan with Centrum. Bugat sa bulsa ang usa ka bultong bayad? Agwidong, ayaw ka bala ka. Pwede ra hulugan with G-Gives. Maunghi mo ang hulugan. Abrihi ang Gcash,
You
ihap
know,
ang borrow.
girl, I have a reason.
G-Gives.
Yeah.
It's 2 p.m. I'm starting to get hungry.
Yes, mamacita.
I'm almost done, so I'll keep going.
Oh, Nina.
This is where I place the background material on the first page.
Tatapusin
There's
ba
only
natin
one
to?
piece of material, but
Char.
miraculously, the background was placed to match each piece, so I feel lucky.
Ang tagal kung meron akong ginagawa. Pero kung nag-TikTok ang
But if I
bilis.
leave it
Parang,
like this, the background background will overlap with the characters, so
Ini-enjoy
I'll
ko
place the
talaga yung
background away from the
every time I enjoy, the time is so
Select
fast.
quick mask from the
Every time I
selection.
don't enjoy, like I'm
A
suffering,
quick mask
ang
layer has been
tagal.
created.
O diba? You don't, it's because
Now, I'll delete
it's
the
never the
background layer
time
and
that
use
is
fill to
wrong.
fill in the areas
It's
other
your
than the characters.
situation, Char.
It's a little outside the small area that's been filled, but that doesn't affect anything,
Pero kung
so it's
na-enjoy mo
fine to
na,
leave it as
enjoy
is.
ka talaga.
I've painted over areas other than the person before, yes. Like this. I've painted over the small details, and there's a little bit of color on the objects, so I'll erase that. Yes, here. I'll erase it. When you think you've mostly painted over it, select the layer's quick mask again.